1. Before I tell you the story, I would like to state that I was not asleep, and that my mother is very much alive, so she was obviously alive at the time of this story, which I guess makes it all the more creepy. Anyway, rewind to about 12 or 13 years ago when I was about 4 or 5-ish. It was the night before Christmas Day, and just because we were all excited, I decided to sleep in my brother's room. As little kids who were just hours from Christmas, we were very restless and were up till around 1 in the morning. My mom had to come in probably every 20 minutes to tell us to shut up and go to bed. We'd give her enough time to lay back down before we'd start being loud again. Finally, my mom got tired of it and came in one last time to tell us that since we wouldn't go to bed, she was going to sleep on the couch to make sure Santa didn't come. We still believed in Santa. This made us shut up very quick, so we wouldn't be as prone to be loud again. I went back to my room to sleep and settled in bed and fell asleep fairly quickly. I woke up the next morning, and I was the first one up. If I had to guess, it was around 6. The way my house was set up, my room was right across from my mom's, followed by a long hallway that contained my brother's room and a second bathroom. I woke up and got out of bed and stepped out into the hallway. I noticed my mom's door was open. I looked over and saw my mom and my stepdad peacefully asleep. Then my mom started to move, and I figured she'd wake up. She rose straight out of bed like the fucking Undertaker or something, and looked straight at me with glowing green eyes and a sinister smile. I booked my little ass down the hallway. Right at the end of the hallway, before you enter the living room, I turned around to make sure whatever the fuck that was wasn't chasing me. Because I lived in that house a long time, I knew when to jump. So I'd land perfectly on the couch. When I hit the couch, someone said, "Ow!" I looked down, and my mother was laying on the couch from the night before. 2. Okay, I need help, but prepare yourselves for the short version of an almost 11-year-long story. Part 1, The First Dream. It started when I was nearly 8 years old. I started having a dream about this place, this city, a world much like ours, but the city, nor the people ever exist. The main people I hung around that were older than me had powers, and the dreams were incredibly vivid. I could read in them, I can remember almost all of them, and I didn't realize it. But they were going to affect me in ways I never thought. Part 2. A knight. In the dreams, I'm a modern knight in shining armor called, well, the Knight. I have this symbol, 3 dots in the form of a triangle. I liked the symbol so much I began drawing it on my wrist in real life, like in the dreams. Part 3. Finding her. A few years after the dreams were happening, I found a girl who recognized me, even though we had never met before. I had just moved to a new city, and she confronted me, telling me all about the dreams I was having, the place, and she had recurring dreams about me. But more specifically, a moment that I had in one of my earlier dreams. However, there is a bad guy in the dreams. He found out about her and left my dreams and went to hers. I found this out after she told me because I never told her. He disappeared from my dreams. She started having nightmares about him, and her friends said she was acting differently. It got to the point where I had a conversation with him through her, basically possession. I had to leave her life so that he couldn't get to me through her, and it worked. I was also just freaked out because I never believed something like that would be possible, so I moved on. But to be honest, for the year following, I would have nightmares, panic attacks, etc. about what could have happened, though I wasn't a believer. After moving on from that and getting better, the dreams continued, but I never told anyone anything. Then this happened. Part 3, Revelations. This year I felt something was coming. I ended up reconnecting with the girl a few years back, but before I moved here I had a weird dream of a figure warning me that things were going to get worse, and they did. A month after I moved, the girl reached out and told me her nightmares were back. Coincidentally, the bad guy left the dreams again the night before. This time I tried finding answers because weird physical things were happening to me. For the first time, the girl and I interacted with him in the real world. Sometimes he was an outline, but other times he was physically there. Each time we both felt instantly weak and had headaches, however. The first time I interacted with him and confronted him, I was on my knees in pain. But my left wrist, more specifically the dots, were burning. Not a bad feeling, but a feeling that made me feel strong. That night I was meditating to get the feeling back, and when I did, I had this inclination to reach out to this necklace I had hanging on my doorknob and try to move it. Crazy, I know, but it moved. I freaked out and tried to convince myself it didn't move. However, tests, videos, and 5 eyewitnesses later, we were convinced I was beginning to move coins and objects with my mind, a power I have in the dreams. I began reaching out to people of the paranormal field. Everyone told me I might be doing this thing called astral projecting. It made sense, since I felt like it worked with my situation. Essentially, they theorized I was projecting into another universe, which was why I would be so exhausted even though I'd have a 14-hour sleep, and why there was insane continuity in the dreams. I found out there were people at my school who casually talked about astral projecting, and a guy talked about an experience that lasted for 10 years. I discussed with him my situation to prove myself that mine just couldn't be real. However, we both witnessed similar events and aspects of the astral realm, or universe. It freaked myself and my friends a lot. I even reached out to a few scientists I found who were studying this phenomenon, and they told me it matched others' experiences. Then I found friends who knew of people who could heal infections in minutes, or mess with electronics if they were a certain way. I'm still finding out more stuff to this day, and to be honest, I never believed in any of this stuff. So it's been hard to accept since I'm looking for an answer that shows that none of this is real. The main theory. The theory my friends brought up was this. During one of my events, I merged with my night form, and that must be why I'm experiencing abilities. Recently, I sprained my thumb and it stung like a bitch. I relaxed and began to think of my healing ability in the other place, and I shit you not, my thumb was immediately 100% for the rest of the day. It was recent too, and it was a bad sprain. 3. Hey, I was wondering if anyone had ever started to see things later on in life. When I was young, I never really witnessed anything. I had the odd precog dream, but that was it. Life was life, exactly what's in front of you. Physical world and not much more. But after commenting on another post about seeing mythical creatures, it made me wonder if anyone else has started to witness stuff later on in life, rather than being born seeing all this. Here's the comment I left on the other thread. I've kind of half seen things for a few years. I don't know what to read into it. Kind of just ignore it. 'Cause I can't say whether they're real or not. I have entertained that it could be some form of undiagnosed mental illness, or a spike in DMT production. But as these things don't happen all of the time, I kind of just leave it. Anyway, I've seen shadow people and ghosts or something like that. It's never a full apparition, more like seeing part of them move. I've had a glowing ball of light dance around my head and then bury itself in the back of my head. As for mythological or folklorish creatures, I've seen a black dog 3 times. I am from the UK, but this wasn't the black shook. First it was in my living room, staring at me in the reflection of the window on my back door. It wasn't massive, about the size of a pit bull, but it just stared for about 10 seconds, then tilted its head a little, as if to say, "Why have you just frozen still?" I've seen it once in the care unit where I work. It just walked out of the living room and in the compound of the place where I was working, just at the end of the garden. But this one was big, but didn't seem interested in me. Just like a giant black dog having a sniff round, working out where to shit, and then just wandered off behind a bush. I've half seen what I can only describe as elves, for lack of a better word. They were like half-shadows, a full form but not solid, kind of like a see-through silhouette. I'd been walking over the moors near my house, and as I was walking back saw what must have been a dozen or so of these things dancing in and out of the long grass like they were holding hands with each other, before just fading away completely. Like I say though, I don't know what this is or any of it. I only half believe in the supernatural and paranormal, but as it's not something that happened my whole life, I don't really put too much stock into any of it. I play with the idea that it's all real, but I wouldn't stake my life on it. Maybe through fear of getting sectioned. If anyone's got any thoughts, would love to hear them, even if it just makes me think I'm not that crazy. 4. There are some strange and subtle things going on in our new apartment. Things are almost never quite where we leave them, but my wife and I have always attributed that to what used to be one, but is now a pair of cats. Things would be knocked off our desks, the baby stuffed animals would be all over the house, and then there was that one time one of my $3 IKEA shelves was on the floor. One morning. Perfectly normal stuff when you have 2 cats and a 12-month-old baby. Before anyone gets distracted, I've done some serious scientific testing and determined that the shelves can support the weight of 1 Dragon Ball Z figurine, 1 giant copy of the Kanji Handbook by V. David, and 2 small bamboo logic puzzles. The addition of a Nintendo 3DS ripped the shelf right off the wall since I didn't care to put it into studs. This very accurate weight range of 4 random things but not 5 random things is easily where the adult's cat weight falls. So it's not a big deal, but I digress. What brings me here is what happened in the last 2 days. These 2 incidents are things I can't explain. Yesterday, while taking a shower with the baby, I took both of our toothbrushes and toothpaste into the shower and brushed both of our teeth. We had 2 tubes of grown-up toothpaste, so I decided I'd leave one in the shower caddy, pocket thing, because I like brushing my teeth in the shower because I can be all metal about it, but not have to clean the entire bathroom. After the shower, I put the kids' stuff back, left mine in the pocket, and then moved the other tube of toothpaste next to the toothbrush cup thing so my wife wouldn't fuck up my zen, taking what is now my toothpaste when she couldn't find the tube. Logical stuff. Next morning, I go to take a shower and my tooth stuff isn't in the pocket. I look for it and find the toothpaste behind the other tube by the cup, and for some reason my toothbrush is in the medicine cabinet. That night I asked my wife why she moved it and explained to her that it's easier for me to follow through on brushing every day if it's in the shower. She says she didn't move it, and I try to tell her I'm not mad about it, but she's adamant that she didn't move it. And I know that she didn't shower that morning, gross, so she wouldn't have seen it. I don't know, either she's lying for some crazy reason, the cats are far more dexterous than I thought, the baby can climb like the Prince of Persia, or something else moved it. The other incident happened tonight. I was cleaning up the house after the kid went to bed, and I put my wife's coloring book stuff on the table, including a somewhat wrinkled page that I'm sure the kid had gotten to. The house is clean. I'm husband of the year. The wife comes back home, starts watching Orange is the New Black, while I play Digimon World 2 on Steam. Everyone is happy. All of a sudden, Allie asked me why I was coloring in her coloring book. Granted, I'm large and burly enough to get away with girly things, and I often take advantage of that. Not in this case. I have dysgraphia, so not only are writing or staying in the lines super friggin' hard for me, but it's also stressful as hell. So it would defeat the point of the whole adult coloring book thing. I tell her I didn't, and that she must have done it and forgotten about it. She said she didn't because it was in crayon and she was using gel pens the other night when she had used this new coloring book. I remember that night, and I remember that she was using her pens because she stepped on the box she keeps her art stuff in and broke it, and it was hilarious. I looked at the half-colored page, and it isn't pre-printed like some books do. The colors match the fancy crayons I got her for her birthday. I checked the book before I showed it to her at Barnes & Noble, because I know she likes the ones with perforated pages, and I feel like I would have noticed if one of the pages were ripped out and stuffed back in shittily. She probably didn't do it, because she works later than me, so I'm basically here anytime she is. With that in mind, if it was done with her crayons, but I didn't do it, she didn't do it, the cats don't have thumbs, and the kid can't stay in the lines, how the hell did this happen? Any theories on what could have happened would be appreciated. I'll update it if anything else happens. 5. After I got home from my mission in LA, I moved back in with my family in Raleigh, North Carolina to work and save a little bit of money before I headed back to college. I was 21 at the time. My family consisted of mom, dad, little brother, age 7 at the time, and little sister, junior in high school, and our dog Emmy. We hadn't been living in the house for very long, maybe like a year and a half to 2 years. And for the time we lived there before my mission, I shared a room with my little brother. My parents were planning on converting our large attic into a bedroom, and I planned on taking that over after my first mission, after which it would then be a guest bedroom. Pre-mission. I don't ever really remember anything odd happening, other than the fact that my brother had nightmares often. But he was young, and we all just figured it was normal. Everyone has bad dreams sometimes. After I got home from my mission, the attic was almost done being turned into a bedroom. My dad used his own tile business, so he and I did the whole floor in the new bedroom and bathroom. One thing I remember is that when I would go up there by myself taking boxes of tile, I would often feel like I was being watched. Nothing really sinister or anything, just that feeling that there's another set of eyes somewhere that's keeping tabs on everything you do. The attic was basically finished while we were doing the tile. The drywall was in and painted, the trim, the windows, everything was done. So it wasn't really spooky to be up there or anything, and the huge window we put in made for a lot of natural light. Once it was all finished, I settled in right away. Finally, I had my own room. Our dog wasn't allowed upstairs, but I brought her up all the time. But once the attic was finished, I took her up to my room and she just froze at the entryway and wouldn't come in. Her ears went back and her tail went in between her legs and she wouldn't come in at all. At first I thought the tile was freaking her out, but every house we lived in before this one had tile and she never had a problem. I picked her up and put her on my bed in the middle of the room to see if it would calm her down not being on the tile, but she looked all around the room like there were people all around, put her head down and her ears back, and jumped off the bed and scurried out the door. She wasn't a small dog. She was a black lab mix, and had never really been scared of anything except thunderstorms. I thought it was weird, but didn't think much of it. I guess I should probably describe the room so you guys get an idea of what it's like. You walked up a staircase, opened the door, and it was basically a long rectangle. My closet was on the left. Straight ahead was a little bench underneath the big window. On the right was my bed and the headboard in the middle of the wall, with the foot of the bed facing out towards the closet. On both sides of my bed was a door, like a 3x3 cabinet door, which opened up to a storage space, that was left over from the original attic. You pretty much had to get on your hands and knees to get anything out of there. And that was probably the only creepy part of my room. It was always so dark in there, with the exception of one little light with a pull string that you had to crawl in a couple feet to get to. Everything was fine for a while until one night. I had just gotten home from work around 11 p.m. It was Friday, and I was getting in the shower to clean up, and then head out with a buddy of mine. I had a Bose iHome speaker that I would always plug my phone into to play music when I was in my room. I remember as soon as I turned the shower off, something felt a little weird. I was feeling really cold. I know I just got out of the shower, but it wasn't that kind of cold. It was that kind of cold that you feel inside of your body, like to the bone. Not just on your skin when the AC hits you after you shower. At this point I was feeling a little uneasy and just wanted to get out of my room. The whole time I was getting dressed, it just felt like something was watching. I don't know why, but I kept looking at the little cabinet doors, feeling like the sensation was coming from there. The feeling this time was definitely more sinister. I finished getting dressed, grabbed the remote for the iHome, turned it off, pulled my phone out of the speaker, and turned to walk out of my room. From the little bench under the window where the speaker was placed to the door to my room was a good 10 to 12 feet. I got about 2 feet from my door when all of a sudden the hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I heard these weird voices over by the window. I froze as the voices got louder. It sounded like there were multiple people, and it sounded kind of like arguing. But the voices were muffled. Then a loud scream shot through the room that was clear as day. It sounded like a little kid, and the other voice, it sounded like it was trying to silence the screaming person, broke through, but I couldn't make out what it was saying. That voice just sent chills down your body, and it didn't sound normal. I whipped my head around and stared at the iHome speaker, and I think that's where it was coming from, but I'm not entirely sure because at the same time, it sounded like it was coming from all around me. It lasted like 7 to 10 seconds, so it didn't seem like some random white noise or speaker malfunction. I had removed my phone from the speaker and turned it off with the remote. I'm not completely discounting the fact that it could have been a technical issue. But the way I was feeling right before and then during and after is what makes me lean towards something different. I ran downstairs and told my parents. They said they didn't hear anything, and weirdly enough, they didn't look at me like I was crazy, nor did they disregard it as me just hearing things. In fact, it was quite the opposite. My mom shot a worried look to my dad, and my dad, without saying a word, just got up and investigated my room, almost like they'd had stuff happen before. There was still a weird feeling when we went back up and checked everything, but for the most part, it was gone. I left, then when I came home later on after hanging out with my friend, my room felt normal again, and I managed to get some sleep. We ended up moving out of that house since my parents got divorced a couple of years later, and I left again to finish school. I remember my brother telling me not too long ago that the family that moved into our house once we sold it was a friend of his from middle school. She told him that she always has bad dreams when she was sleeping, and that she'd seen weird shadows. She sleeps in the same room my brother slept in. The house was in a very nice, new and populated area, so it wasn't like we were out in the boondocks. Not that that really matters when it comes to weird stuff, I guess. More stuff happened there, but for the sake of post length, I'll leave this one here. Let me know what you guys think, because I have had some ideas, but I'd love to get other perspectives on what could have been going on. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Paranormal Stories, episode 56. Thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. In regards to story number 2, if it sounds familiar, I haven't done it before in case that's what you're thinking, but I did do a story about a year or so ago that had very similar themes. Okay, I'm afraid I'll have to keep the outro a bit short for this video. I want to get my videos done, then I want to spend a bit of time just kind of messing around in Photoshop. I'm trying to improve my skills a bit. I spent quite a good chunk of last night making a Doctor Who poster, kind of, well, it was an existing poster, but I was updating it with the current Doctors. And so that was fun. I learned a few things. I mean, that's why I like to play about in Photoshop, because I'll decide, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I'll think, okay, can I do that with what I already know? In some cases I can, in other cases I can't, and oftentimes in the cases where I'm able to, I'll find there's a better way that does it that gets more results, and that's essentially why I do it, because those skills will then translate towards doing this, towards doing image manipulation for my videos and so on, because they're a bit plain right now, and I do actually, to be honest with you, I probably do more work to the actual images than you guys realise, but it tends to be quite subtle changes. But I want to make things a bit more interesting, so I'm continually learning. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.